Habar nu am ce faci. Așa că fac o reacție la chestia asta de pe ecran. Habar n-am că dintre voi să uite. Dacă vă uitați, nu vă uitați. Ați ajuns până aici. Puteți da un like sau să vă abonați dacă vreți. Așa că hai să nu mai vorbim așa mult și să trecem la videoclipul ăsta. Deci, mi-e plac anime-urile. Mă uit la anime-uri. Adică nu prea mă uit așa de mult. Am câte ceva care mă uit pe acolo. Am terminat acum. Ultima dată a terminat Evangelion. Nu mai vreau să fac niciun sezon sau nimica. E gata, s-a terminat. Și finalul a fost foarte fain. Hai să vedem acum despre studiouri. Așa că știu că o să fac publicitate la creatorul ăstuia, dar puteți vă duceți la el, dați o abonare sau un like. Așa că hai să ne uităm.
Mushi Productions was founded in 1961 by ex-Toei employee and legendary godfather of manga Osamu Tezuka. They were pioneers.
Asta e Astro Boy, fiind primul anime din istorie făcut. Nu prea știu așa multe despre serialul ăsta, dar știu că am văzut multe povești având la bază Astro Boy. Hai să continuăm de acum.
Of anime and revolutionized the medium as a whole, and the reason that Mushi Pro was even made in the first place was because Tezuka didn't enjoy his time at Toei. So he basically got a bunch of animes from Toei and was like, yo, I'll pay you double the salary if you join me, and the rest is history. The studio adapted a ton of Tezuka's manga series, like Astro Boy, Ashita no Joe, and Dororo. The studio was so prolific that they even worked on overseas projects like the original 1969 Frosty the Snowman Christmas special. It's hard to overstate just how much Mushi Pro really was the GOAT in their prime, and it was because they were exclusively hiring the best of the best. Apparently their interview process was so difficult that some of the best anime directors like Osamu Dezaki almost failed the test. In the late 60s to early 70s, Mushi Pro was beginning their downward slip into bankruptcy. This actually would cause them to create some of their more interesting adult-oriented works like 1001 Nights or Cleopatra, both of which I can't show much of. Like, look at this poster of Cleopatra. Yeah! Unfortunately, these attempts to pivot into the adult animation market didn't really work, and the studio disbanded. A lot of the staff ended up creating other studios like Sunrise, Madhouse, and Kyoto.
Sunrise and Madhouse.
Annie in its wake. It's hard to really convey how many important people were in this one animation studio, but if you want to check out some of Mushi Pro's work, I've been told Ashita no Joe is really good, and if you want something completely different, check out Belladonna of Sadness. I mean, it is easily one of the most surrealist anime I've ever seen. Like, what am I watching here? White Fox was founded in 2007 by former OLM staff member Gakko Iwasa and other employees. They are well known for adapting popular games and light novels into anime, which their first work, Tears of Tiara, was. Their second ever work was
Am vrut să mă uit la anime-ul ăsta, dar fiecare episod are aproape o oră. Fiecare episod și are 12 episoade.
3, which to this day has some of the most out there art style I've ever seen. And then they released Steins Gate, which is still considered to this day to be one of the best sci-fi time travel stories. Nowadays, they're mainly known for their work on ReZero, which has some really great animated sequences, particularly in episode 18. This is a weird episode because it's literally just two people talking, but White Fox did such a good job making this episode one of the best. Special shout out to episode director Kazumo Koga for elevating this scene from just two people talking into to a super emotional climax. Now, they're an incredibly small studio at only 46 employees, which probably does mean that they outsource a lot of their work, but it is still impressive that they managed to create such big IPs with such a small team. And in 2018, they ended up founding a new studio with the help of Egg Firm, which I'll get to later. David Production was founded by former Gonzo producers Koji Kajita and Taito Akira. They also got a ton of Studio Shaft veterans to join their studio, and you can see the work shine on Fire Force and JoJo's. They are a comparatively smaller studio, and their name is literally a reference to David and Goliath. The studio itself is well known for being super creative in its art palettes and ideas, and this has greatly helped influence their ultra-popular adaptation of the JoJo Bizarre Adventure manga franchise. I'm sure you've seen and heard all of the JoJo memes that have come out of the anime series.
Continuăm.
In an interview with the co-director of almost every part of JoJo's, Naokatsu Suda, he actually explains that the memeability of the series was intentional. The JoJo graphic novels over the years have become something of an internet meme, or at least they are the source of a lot of internet memes. One thing we can do today that would have been possible 20 years ago is pick up on the established memes and see how we can pull those into the anime. In fact, that was fully intended. We wanted to make a show where a fan could watch the animated episode and then go back to the graphical novel and see their idea of JoJo was faithfully animated. Honestly, such GOAT behavior. This is easily their biggest work and a great reminder of the creativity and passion that the studio has. If you want recommendations of other good shows they've done, Cells at Work and Undead
Vă recomand, foarte fain. Hai să continuăm.
Work and Undead Unluck are really fun. You know what's also fun? The subscribe button. Hey look, it's glowing for Pride Month. Studio Dean was founded in 1975 by former Sunrise producer Hiroshi Hasegawa along with other Sunrise animators. Back in the day, Studio Dean had a really good reputation and was making some of the most iconic anime. Ranma 1/2, Fruits Basket, and Higurashi are still talked about to this day. But nowadays, Studio Dean has a pretty bad reputation, and that is mostly due to their poor handling of the Seven Deadly Sins.
Sau mai bine spus, Seven Deadly Frames.
Season 3. This season is infamous for having some of the most piss-poor animation ever. I'm not even a Seven Deadly Sins fan, and I still feel disappointed just looking at this. The most hype-up fight was completely botched, and since the first two seasons had pretty good animation by A1 Pictures, it kind of felt like it was all Dean's fault that this just looked like ass. But was this really the case? Well, apparently, Aniplex, A1's parent company, was ordered to make a Season 3 pretty soon after the movie came out by Netflix, which had just flopped. Since A1 Pictures was making way more money with SAO and Fate Grand Order, they didn't feel the need to make another season, so Aniplex asked Studio Dean to take on the project, and I'm assuming this resulted in a rushed schedule. Unfortunately, that just seems to be the norm with a lot of anime nowadays. Studios just bite off more than they can actually chew. If you watch Dean's other work, like Konosuba, you'll see that they can still make shows with great animation cuts, but it's definitely a mixed bag. JC Staff was founded in 1986 by Tomoyuki Miyata, and
Știu să facă doar un singur anime. Restul, nu.
they've unfortunately been branded as a sort of budget anime studio just like Dean. The main reason for this was the release of One Punch Man Season 2. Now, look, don't get me wrong.
Deci nu a fost făcut de Madhouse. Primul sezon nu a fost foarte fain.
I still enjoyed Season 2's story. I even think it has some good scenes in general. But director Shingo Natsume's ability to attract industry veterans like Yutaka Nakamura was what made Season 1 so good. And when you have to follow up one of the best animators and just an all-around insane team of animation veterans, it is easy to fall short, but also to be a bit of an asshole. It's not a secret that a lot of JC Staff anime just have pretty bad animation quality in general. In fact, I would say One Punch Man Season 2 and Food Wars are probably some of their best works. And although Psyche K is funny as hell, let's be honest, the animation, this is actually the definition of mid. I mean, probably even below mid. The show was great, but it's definitely not because of the animation. Way of the House Husband, another example. It's literally just colored manga panels. And maybe for some people it looks good and it's fun to watch, but for me there's not enough motion. And I'm not saying that this is the fault of people who work there. You know, tons of them are probably talented, but clearly there's a reason that JC is taking so many shortcuts, and it's probably because they keep making like 3 shows in a single season. Obviously, not all of them can look good when their time and money is split up among so many different projects. Like in summer 2023, just last year, they released 5 shows in the same season. That's insane. Again, I don't want to stereotype all of JC Staff as being bad, because it does depend on the people who are working on the project itself. It's not like they've never made amazing shows. Some of their best includes like Revolutionary Girl, Utena, Azumanga Daioh, Karekano, which they made with Gainax, which I talked about in my previous anime studio video. And then later in the 2000s, they were some of the first to start adapting Kadokawa light novels like Familiar of Zero and Railgun, both of which are really great, but
Mai ales Index, Railgun.
let's be honest, overall, JC Staff does have a pretty bad stereotype, and, you know, the glove seems to fit. Studio Man Globe was founded in 2002 by former Sunrise producers Shinichiro Kobayashi and Takashi Kochiyama. They started off with a bang, releasing Samurai Champloo in 2004 as their first ever anime. Now,
Am văzut asta, nu m-am uitat. M-am uitat doar la primul episod. nu prea m-a interesat așa mult, dar muzica, ceva fain. Hip-hop-ul.
Now let me ask y'all a question. What happens when you mix the amazing director of Cowboy Bebop, Shinichiro Watanabe, and the literal godfather of lo-fi hip-hop and musical icon Nujabes to make an anime? Well, you get fucking perfection. Okay, if you haven't watched Samurai Champloo, go grab yourself a magic brownie and sit your ass on the couch. Okay, it is nirvana. Manglobe is known for the amount of creative freedom that they gave their directors. Samurai Champloo, Ergo Proxy, these are great examples of what was accomplished with this freedom. They've also adapted a few manga series like Dead Man Wonderland and The World Only God Knows, which is easily the best harem anime of all time. But unfortunately, this studio didn't last forever. They accumulated an insane amount of debt, totaling up to 350 million yen, which accounting for inflation today is around $3 million. This broke the company and they ended up declaring bankruptcy in 2015. I wish I knew exactly why this happened, but there is a surprising lack of information on the topic and around this studio in general. My best guess is that the 2008 global recession severely impacted them, and the fact that Samurai Champloo was one of their biggest works but still didn't do great for DVD sales probably hurt them in the long run. I mean, just looking at this list of most of their DVD sales, they're not that great. Also, I hope you're finally happy, dude. Doga Kobo was founded by former Toei employees Hideo Furusawa and Megumi Ishiguro in 1973. Most of their earlier works were more on the moe side of anime, with shows like Umaru-chan and New Game, which, you know, one of these is definitely
Vreți cancer? Uitați-vă la acest anime. Nu o să mai trebuiască deloc cancer pe urmă.
good anime. The other one, but nowadays, Doga Kobo is definitely more known for their recent series, like Oshinoko, really showing the talent that they have. And you might be surprised to learn that the first season of Oshinoko was actually made on a pretty tight schedule. It really is a testament to the team, and especially series director Daisuke Hiramaki, to inventedly adapt the entire first volume into a single 90-minute episode instead of splitting it up.
Și ăla a fost, cred că primul și ultimul episod care a fost. Am vrut să mă uit și la restul de episoade, la episodul 2, 3, 4, no.
Up into multiple 20-minute episodes. I think my favorite moment from the show has to come from Kenji Sawada though, who did this brilliant scene where Ruby finally decides that she can dance too. And it's not surprising because he's also worked on the key animation for big shows like Freerun and Spy Family. Another star player is Kana Hirayama, who's been at Doga Kobo for a while and whose intricate supervision of over 1,000 cuts alone as the chief animation director for the first episode made sure that she turned Ai into this captivating star for us to watch. And again, not surprising considering she has contributed heavily to shows like Bocchi the Rock and Tokyo Ghoul. If you're looking to see more of her great work at Doga Kobo, then check out Selection Project, but in general I would also recommend a lot of their older works like Nozaki-kun, Plastic Memories, and GJ Club. If you want something that just came out and is also really good, Jellyfish Can't Swim is really good, and I'm super excited for the new Oshinoko season as well. Studio OLM, formerly known as Oriental Light and Magic, was founded in 1990 by 10 previous Studio Gallop and Obi planning employees. Just like larger anime studios, OLM has many different departments that work on a ton of different shows.
Deci studioul ăsta odată naște la Pokémon, adică anime-ul, nu la jocuri. Pot să spun acum că n-am jucat niciun joc Pokémon, n-am avut deloc Nintendo, n-am jucat Zelda, n-am jucat Mario, nu știu ce cu jocurile astea.
The most popular which is easily the Pokemon anime series. And this is a difficult task because you have to consistently adapt and change your art style to match the setting to setting changes and keep up with the modern technology that animation is having. You can see this change most prominently from the Pokemon Season X and
Pokémon XYZ mi s-a părut cel mai bun, pot să spun atâta. Da, n-am jucat niciun joc, dar știu că m-am uitat la aproape toate sezoanele din Pokémon. Hai să continuăm.
and Y to Sun and Moon, where the art style just dramatically changed. This actually caused a lot of backlash online for viewers because they were used to seeing Ash in a certain way. But this more simple character design freed up the animation team to make even better looking action sequences. And even though they're most well known for Pokemon, they've made a ton of other anime, including like Beyblade, Komi-san, and Berserk? Yes, Literally just a few months after they made the first season of Pokemon, OLM animated the 1997 adaptation of Berserk. This is still regarded by a lot of manga fans to be the best adaptation of the work, but if you don't mind CG, the Golden Age movies aren't the worst either. OLM is such a huge studio at this point that they have a ton of different internal teams and multiple different subsidiary companies in other countries to outsource their work too. In fact, they're so big that I was actually able to find their company profile on Glassdoor, a website where people can rate companies and how good they are to work for. So let's read some of these together. Good colleagues and seniors, chill environment. Okay, that's pretty cool. Overworked employees, poor work-life balance. The next one is as bad as Mappa, terrible working conditions, non-ethical hours, terrible HR, low pay, disrespectful employers, and those are just the pros. Surely one of them has got to be good. Let's see. Deadline based, so you have absolutely no choice but to finish work even if it takes the whole night. No overtime pay even though working past 9 p.m. almost every day. Worst overtime was until 2 days, more than 24 hours and no extra pay whatsoever. And overtime past 2 a.m. happens every month. Toxic managers, guilt-tripping staff when you're unable to finish work or wanting to extend time, feels inhumane. Your 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. is very rare, feels like it's impossible. Well, that's kind of just depressing. Okay. Cloverworks used to be a separate studio within A1 Pictures, but they've since rebranded to their own studio in 2018. Cloverworks is known for their character expressiveness and creative visuals in shows like Bocchi the Rock, Spy Family, and Windbreaker, which just came out this
Bocchi è un anime che vi raccomando.
spring season and has some of the best fight sequences I've ever seen. Most of their works are romances and slice of life shows with a heavy emphasis on comedy. However, as with many amazing studios, from what I've heard, they have a pretty bad scheduling problem. In 2021, while Cloverworks was getting a team ready for their 2022 lineup of anime, Chief Animation Director Kiminori Ito started posting Twitter complaints about the schedule, even going as far as to say,
Deci não achado um quarto.
it's too painful. Death. This is someone who has worked on some of the biggest shows in the past, like Chainsaw Man and Gintama, and at Cloverworks he worked on Tokyo 24th Ward and Horimiya. Unfortunately, this kind of insane production schedule affects everyone in the anime studio, even as someone as talented and high up as Ito. Cloverworks is also very well known for their massive fumbling of Promised Neverland Season 2. Now, I'm gonna get a little speculative here and say that the reason that Promised Neverland Season 2 was so rushed and completely ruined the manga ending was because they were just too booked as a studio to keep making new seasons, or because they had an insanely tight production schedule that just didn't allow for more continued seasons, but that's just a theory. A game theory. 8-Bit was founded in 2008 by former Satellite members and is now a subsidiary of Bandai Namco Filmworks, formerly known as Sunrise. They used to be known for working on all those old school battle harem shows like Infinite Stratos, which was their first work. If you were a horny middle school teenager in 2013, like
L-am văzut atunci.
I was, and you probably watched a lot of their shows. Nowadays, they are pretty much exclusively known for their work on That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime and Blue Lock, which both have become super popular in their own right. 8-Bit is pretty well known to have decent animation sometimes, but usually is not the most consistent. When they spend the budget to make their big scenes hit, the show often looks great, even amazing at times. They also love using CGI because it is one of the studio's specialties, and this can be a good cost-saving measure.
Dacă folosești, știi, CGI unde trebuie, merge. Dar dacă folosești CGI unde nu trebuie, avar la urmă, nu merge deloc. Continuăm.
Reviews properly, but it can also be very jarring for a lot of viewers. But disregarding the CG moments, there's still a lot of times, especially in Blue Lock, where characters will just be talking and things kind of look like off. And while the first few episodes started off super strong, towards the end of the show, things really started looking worse and worse, with some of these proportions and shots just looking really weird. And as we've seen time and time again, this is probably an issue related to the scheduling of the production itself. It's hard to emphasize just how important time, money, and talent all contribute to an anime success. However, I've been watching Slime Season 4, and so far the animation quality has been pretty decent. Hopefully 8-Bit gives the same amount of time for Blue Lock, and especially its U20 arc, to cook, because the manga they have to adapt is straight fire from here on out. PA Works was founded in 2000 by ex-Production IG member Kenji Horikawa. Apparently when he first started the studio, he was broke, so he borrowed an abandoned hospital building and turned it into a studio, which that's actually kind of fire. They were especially popular in the 2010s with shows like Angel Beats, Charlotte, and another. Legendary composer and writer Jun Maeda also worked on a ton of PA Works projects, making music and even screenwriting for Angel Beats and Charlotte. They seem to always deliver with consistent and great animation, and even to this day they're continuing to
N-am văzut Skip and Loafer. La ce fain arată animația, ar trebui să mă uit. Dar nu am timp. Adică am. dar trebuie să găsesc o scuză.
Make great shows like Skip and Loafer or Akiba Maid War. They have a very distinctive visual style that really emphasizes their amazing background art, and personally, I love it. They've also made some really insightful anime too, like Shirobako, which is literally about how anime is made, which if you're watching this might interest you. Ironically though, PA Works has had some PR problems related to employee dissatisfaction, but it's a little complicated, so I'm going to simplify it a bit. Traditionally, animation is first storyboarded and then someone creates the keyframes of that animation. Then in-betweeners will go in to fill the motion between keyframes, creating the smooth sequence that we see as an animation. Since most animators only get paid per drawing and not per hour, this can lead to some less than ideal pay. An in-betweener for PA Works posted on Twitter that they were getting paid a really poor wage, but it's not so much the case that PA Works pays poorly. In fact, they actually pay above the average compared to most animation studios. It's more of a problem that the industry as a whole is pretty broken and kind of screws over in-betweeners. These guys are basically the unsung heroes of the anime industry because on average, they earn around 200 yen per drawing, which is less than $2. Sometimes these drawings can take up to an hour, but you still get paid the same amount per drawing. PA Works is better than the industry standard at around 220 yen per drawing. That still kind of sucks. But it's important to understand that this isn't usually the fault of the animation studio itself. Here is a graph showing the annual profits of the anime industry. These small yellow bars represent the portion that the anime studios actually receive. Because these production committees are the ones funding anime and they hold the IP, anime studios don't see any of the money, the production committees do. And this leads to the lack of funds for a lot of animators, especially ones that are just starting out and are in-betweeners. But anyway, that's a whole nother discussion. My personal favorite PA Works anime has to be their movie Makia. It is genuinely one of the most underrated anime films of all time. Like, I'm gonna be real, I don't usually cry when watching anime movies, but for some reason, when I watch Makia, the waterworks, that shit went crazy. If you enjoy tearjerkers, 100% check that out. Production IG was founded in 1987 by Mitsushita Ishikawa and Takayuki Goto. IG has made some of the biggest
Da, unii din studiourile astea sunt chiar foarte bătrâni.
and most influential anime of all time, and I think these amazing works are partly due to their family
Ghost in the Shell, standalone complex. Deci îmi plăcea să mă uit la anime-ul ăsta pe Animax. Nu știu care dintre voi știți că înainte, pe Minimax, la ora 8 seara, programul Minimax încheia și începea programul Animax, care dădea anime-uri. Habar n-am dacă mai e așa acum. Nici măcar nu știu dacă mai există Minimax. Dar, înainte, asta era. Minimax încheia la 8, de acolo până la 12 seara începea Animax. Aveai Ghost in the Shell, aveai Full Metal Alchemist, Nana, aveai cam multe anime-uri. Aveai acolo.
ideals. Co-founder Ishikawa said in an interview that when I started IG in 1987, anime was thought as an extension of manga. Anime had no importance of its own. I wanted to make an anime feature film that stood on its own without manga. And if we're talking about IG, we have to talk about Mamoru Oshii, one of the best anime directors of our time. With his breakout movie Pat Labor, he immediately solidified himself as a big name in the industry, and then he directed Ghost in the Shell, which literally helped shape the genre of cyberpunk, serving as a core inspiration to dystopian movies like The Matrix. This movie was a global phenomenon and helped bring anime in general to the West. Not only that, in the last few years, IG has produced Haikyuu and single-handedly changed Japanese men's volleyball, as tons of people are now more interested in the sport. IG also owns Wit Studio as a subsidiary, which has produced popular shows like Attack on Titan and Vinland Saga Season 1. And recently, IG has taken on a more interesting role in the anime industry. Instead of subcontracting like most other studios, they started being a prime contractor and financing other anime production. Studio Pierrot was founded in 1972 by Yuji Nunokawa, and they are responsible for some of the biggest anime ever released. Their catalog includes shows like Naruto, Bleach, Black Clover, all of which are shonen mega hits in their own right. Their first ever project was an adaptation of The Wonderful Adventures of Nils, which is a Swedish novel. Interesting. But I would say their breakout hit was Urusei Yatsura, directed by Mamoru Oshii, of which they did the first 100 or so episodes. This anime was a pioneer in the romantic comedy genre, and then they released Yu Yu Hakusho a decade later, which to this day...
Yu Yu Hakusho. L-am văzut 2 ori. L-am văzut. Recomand. Îi făcut de creatorul animeului Hunter x Hunter și soția creatorului o creat Sailor Moon. Deci da, o familie foarte interesantă.
It has one of the best tournament arcs of all time. Yu Hakusho was directed by Noriyuki Abe, who is on an insane amount of projects at Pierrot. He also helped direct Tokyo Mew Mew, Great Teacher Onizuka, and Bleach. Because Pierrot is such a big studio, they have a ton of different teams, but if I'm gonna shout out someone, I definitely want to shout out Hiroyuki Yamashita for doing such amazing work on both Naruto and Bleach 1000 Year Blood War, specifically episode 6, where he was involved in storyboarding, direction, and animation, and this shit looks amazing. Thankfully, it also looks like Studio Pierrot is trying to improve their employee well-being and working conditions in the industry. The managing director of Pierrot, Kyoto Itsumi, said that humans, not computers, create anime. So if those humans become exhausted, there's nothing we can do. Such a way of creating things is not sustainable in the long run. That's why since I joined Pierrot, we've made significant revisions to salaries and even retroactively increased overtime pay by 20%. I believe we've dedicated to improving working conditions. This is a great sign in the anime industry, and I hope more studios follow in their footsteps. Studio Bind was founded in 2018 as a joint
Studio Bind a fost creat exclusiv să facă animeul acesta.
venture by Egg Firm and White Fox. The studio was originally just made for Mushoku Tensei, but recently they've made another show, Onimai, and are coming out with new shows in 2025. Apparently, Mushoku Tensei was greenlit all the way back in 2016, but because it had such a long pre-production process, probably because of the insane quality, it took a while for it to release. In fact, the quality of season 1 was so good that people are starting to question the currently airing season of Mushoku Tensei, as a lot of its core staff has since left the production. A lot of people are saying that it just doesn't look as good. However, I still think that Mushoku Tensei Season 2 has some great cuts, and that is of course due to the wonderful work of Kyukawa. Although he was simply a key animator in the first season, he definitely had his hand in making some of the best moments in the show. With episode 22, he has just flexed his skills as an episode director for the first time, and Jesus Christ, what an amazing directorial debut. I mean, this episode had some of the best action sequences I've ever seen, and the VFX that the team chose to use was really incredible. Kyukawa is a newer face in the industry, but just like Studio Bind, I have high hopes for their future projects. Silver Link was founded in 2007 by Hayato Kaneko. Nowadays, most anime from them involve Aonuma as a director or co-director. They're well known for making slice of life shows like Nonon Biori and some of the Fate series spin-offs, or at least I think that's what this is. I'm gonna be honest, I know nothing about Fate, and I'm definitely not learning for this video. They've made a ton of anime that are some of my personal favorites. I have fond memories of watching Baka and Test, Wanemode, and Kokoro Connect, which is still one of my favorite anime to this day. I mean, I love Kokoro Connect, which is what makes this next part so sad. A big controversy at Silver Link was the fact that voice actor Mitsuhiro Ichiki was apparently tricked into auditioning for a role in the anime Kokoro Connect. This audition was set up by a producer of the show, and apparently the entire point of it was to make Ichiki say sus things that could be remixed into something weird out of context. Ichiki then had to sit through a PR event for the show where they played his out of context clips and revealed that he didn't even get the role because the role for this show never even existed. I don't know what kind of twisted psychopath comes up with a plan like this, but once the story got out there was understandably a ton of outrage. People started boycotting the anime and the studio itself, and they eventually had to issue an official apology. It sucks because I really do love Kokoro Connect, especially since the show is literally about overcoming personal trauma with the help of your friends, which is what makes the situation all the more ironic. Silver Link also has the reputation of not having the greatest animation, with shows like Death March really just being super boring and derivative. But they've also made good stuff like the aforementioned Kokoro Connect, Mitsuboshi Colors, and My Next Life as a Villainess. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed this video. There's still a ton of anime studios I left out. Maybe I'll do another one if this reaches 10k likes. Anyway, peace.
Așa că contribuiți și voi. Acum, anime-ul care îl aștept îi și cu asta vă las cu câteva secunde din asta.